What's up, TechHeart? Dude, a new version of Omarchy came out. Omarchy 3.0. What is Omarchy? It's an Arch Linux installation with Hyprland, a tiling window manager, and DHH's, the developer of Ruby on Rails, Hyprland theme and customizations. It's really cool. Ever since Omarchy 1.0, and then Omarchy 2.0, which came out on an ISO file that you can install very easily, I've seen more development, and now we're on Omarchy 3. This is pretty cool. So in this video, I'm going to talk about Omarchy and really explain it in detail. I'll tell you where it came from, a little bit about DHH, and everything that you need to know to be on the coolest Hyprland setup in 2025. If you're not subscribed, please do so. It really helps the TechHeart channel. And if you really find value in these videos, we have memberships. Come along! Let's snap on over to the computer and get talking about Omarchy 3.0. Okay. So starting out, let's meet David Heinemeier Hanson. He's the lead dev of Ruby on Rails. He created Omarchy. He's the co-owner of 37 Signals, a best-selling author, Le Mans class-winning race driver, investor, Shopify board member, and blah, blah, blah. His main claim to fame is Ruby on Rails. However, a few months ago, he got into Linux. I suppose he was a developer and used Windows before that. However, before Omarchy, let's take a quick look at a project named Omarcube. This was DHH's first dive into Linux, and it used Ubuntu 24.04, and he created a cool, theme for Ubuntu. We can take a quick look.
Omarcube turns a fresh Ubuntu installation into a beautiful pre-configured developer environment ready to use by running a single command.
So yeah, it was an Ubuntu setup that you ran with a command and it installed some stuff and it was really cool. But that's not what's on the plate today. After Omarcube, DHH found Hyprland. And he released Omarchy version 1.0. And it was pretty cool. It was a script that you ran after you'd installed Arch Linux, and it installed Hyprland and all of DHH's Omarchy theming. It was really freaking sweet. After which he released Omarchy 2.0. However, today, there's a new Omarchy 3.0. When the version of Omarchy 2.0 came out, it was in an ISO format. You downloaded a .iso file, you burned it to a USB stick, and it did the entire installation for you, making it much easier. We can take a look at this, even though it's still titled Omarchy 2.0.
Omarchy is a modern Linux distribution built on
Omarchy
of Arch Linux and Hyprland, the tiling window manager, to create an absolutely gorgeous and fast system. Primarily for developers or anyone interested in a pro system that takes a little time to learn and to set up, but that will pay dividends in terms of speed of use, in terms of fluidity, in terms of simply enjoying your system like nothing else. I came from the map.
Okay, so we have Omarchy. I'm still calling it Omarchy, gosh darn it. We've installed Omarchy 2.0 in a previous video, but today we're going to look at Omarchy 3.0. Let's dive on in to our Omarchy 2.0 installation, baby. Okay, we'll get logged in. And yeah, here we are on Omarchy 2.0. Right up here, we see a little update that tells us there's an Omarchy update available. Also, if we go to the Omarchy menu, we could go to Update, and we could go to Omarchy, and if we give it a password, it will tell us that there's an Omarchy update available. But I'm going to say no, because the update from Omarchy 2.0 to 3.0 is so easy. You just click here, same thing, and look at that. Bob's your uncle. First, it updates Arch Linux, after which we move right into the Omarchy updater. So we'll select yes, yes, and look at that. We're going to Omarchy 3.0. We'll pop in a password. And boom! We're into Omarchy 3.0 with no upgrade path. Let's verify that there's no Omarchy upgrade with update Omarchy. Little password, baby. And look, we're all up to date. That was the easiest upgrade I've ever seen. We can switch back to the Omarchy website and let's go over to the GitHub for version 3.0.2, and here's a changelog. What I'm most excited about is not only DHH a contributor, but he's also accepted help from Ryan Hughes, Omar Scali, JS, Taha Yever, John Lee, Rignac, Fury Free, and a bunch of other people. They've fixed a bunch of theme stuff. They've fixed Ghosty. They've improved themes for VS Code, hide the hyperlink cursor while typing, fix more themes, more Ghost hardware audio, pipewire updates, and a bunch of other stuff. It excites me that DHH is allowing other contributors. What this tells me is that Omarchy is here to stay and will be getting updates from many developers. And that's a good thing, in my opinion. You guys, if you like Hyprland and you're not afraid to use somebody else's setup, this is a really cool way to do things. It has all sorts of configurations that are helpful. I think that Omarchy 3.0 is the coolest way to do Hyprland in 2025. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And for now, TechHeart out! Should I really have been done? Should I have recorded more stuff? Oh man, I'm second guessing myself. Anyway, Hyprland 3.0 is flippin' gangster!
Omarchy is a modern Linux distribution built on top of Arch Linux and Hyprland, the tiling window manager, to create an absolutely gorgeous and fast system. Primarily for developers or anyone interested in a pro system that takes a little time to learn and to set up, but that will pay dividends in terms of speed of use, in terms of fluidity, in terms of simply enjoying your system like nothing else. I came from the Mac. I've tried to bring over the best of that world, combine it with the best of the Linux world, and come up with just something new that taps into all the exciting stuff that's been going on in Linux subcultures for quite a while now. Omarchy looks like nothing else. Unless you've been browsing the Unix porn forums on Reddit, this is a truly new and unique system for anyone who's been used to commercial operating systems or mainstream Linux distributions like Ubuntu or Fedora. So let me take you for a ride. Let me show you how Omarchy works, and I think you're going to like it. So this is how Omarchy greets you when you've just started up your new installation. As you can see, it is quite bare. There are no icons to click on. There are no files on the desktop. There's just a beautiful backdrop to the Tokyo Night default theme. The first thing I'm going to do is show you how to start a terminal. So that is super enter. That simply pops up the terminal for you right here. We can do an ls. It has a nice little starship prompt. So if I hop in and out of directories, I get a little prompt here going. And if I hop into Omarchy, for example, you can see it even shows you the GitHub status. But if I open a browser here on Super B, you'll see that the magic of tiling window managers, it just slides in on the right. And if I hold down Super Shift and I push the arrow key, I can send them back and forth. If I hold down Super J, then I can switch them vertically or horizontally. And of course, I can keep doing this. If I start another terminal on Super Return, I get it right below. If I close things out, it goes back to full screen. I can open any other program. For example, on Super T, we have the activity monitor from BTOP, always a favorite when anyone wants to take a picture of their cool Omarchy desktop. It just looks beautiful when you need to see it. What also looks really beautiful in Omarchy is web applications. We have baked a bunch of them in a beautiful frameless way. If you hit Super A, you get an AI. I use GPT-5. If you hit Super W, that's how you close a window. And if I hit Super Shift A, I get Grok. We have a bunch of different web applications. I also have X here on Super X. Always a bit dangerous opening this in the middle of a video. Now that looked all safe. People getting excited about Rails World 2025. Excellent. What I really like is when you combine these two things together. When you have the TUIs and you have the web applications just living side by side with none of the chrome, none of the ugliness. It's just a beautiful way to do computing because there really aren't a lot of so-called native applications on Omarchy. By far, the majority of things you will do on Omarchy will be done through the terminal. With the TUIs, it'll be done through web applications. But there are all these ways you can start things with the keyboard. I've shown you Super A to start the AI and Super T to start the activity monitor. But if you're starting any other application, you can also hit Super Space and you will get the launcher. There's a bunch of applications built in by default. For example, Basecamp here. We got Brave, which is the new browser I'm trying out. It's not one of the defaults. Maybe it will be one day. There's a calculator here from GNOME. This is actually one of those native applications. I don't totally love it. I think we're going to use a new calculator in a future version, but that's what's here for right. But what's really neat is that the entire system is controlled through the Omarchy menu. You can either get to the Omarchy menu by clicking up the Omarchy icon up here, and you'll see it, or as you'll see if I hover over it on Super Alt Space, you hop into the menu. And from the menu, you can do everything. You can even hop into the launcher as we had on Super Space, or you can start diving into the submenu. And let me show you a few of them. Learn, for example, is where we have everything lined up for you to explore the system, to learn the system, to learn the individual components. If I hit Keybindings here, you will see a nice way of just getting a way of seeing all your keybindings. For example, if I forgot how to do that terminal, I can just start writing it. Oh, it's on Super Return. But let's keep going here down through the learning. You also have the Omarchy manual. It's a great place to learn about how to set up the system, how you install the system, how you configure the system. I make quite the effort to ensure that it's always up to date with the latest versions. And if you're feeling more curious about how everything is set up, you can hop back out on the index here with all the manuals for Omacom, and you can read a little bit about the philosophy, the doctrine of how all the Omacom setups and Omarchy is steered from a philosophical perspective. But let's hop back in under Learn and see. You'll also find the Hyprland wiki, which is a great way of learning how to configure your system, what all the variables and keybindings and whatever else is. You have the Arch Linux wiki as well, which is a treasure trove when you're trying to figure out how to install something, especially on more ancient systems. There's a great guide in there on getting up and going on older MacBooks. And as you can see now, I'm not actually using the arrow keys to go back and forth. I'm just typing. And that is one of these magical things about the Omarchy menu. You just start typing the things you want to learn about. I'm here. I want to check out the NeoVim key map bindings. Okay, that's where I am. I'm going to hit Super W. I close it back out. I can hop back into the menu. It's really fast to do it this way. Now under Capture, you have a few different things for doing screenshots and screen recordings. You can even grab a little color picker here. All of these things are also accessible on Keybindings. Super K, you'll see all those keybindings. For example, if we're trying to figure out the different ways we can do screenshots, we can just start typing here and you'll see, oh, Control Print is how I start the screenshot of a whole display, and print alone is just a region. Actually, let me do this. I'm going to hit the print button. I'm going to do a little screenshot here, and you'll see it pops up into this nice little editor where we can draw some errors here and point out that the sun is really the most important thing in this picture. You can either escape out if you want to discard it, or just hit return and it'll save to your clipboard and to the file system. Well, let's keep going here and jump into toggles, for example. On toggle, you can toggle the screensaver on and off, whether you want that starting after 2.5 minutes of inactivity. You might want to turn that on if you're on a power-strained system or if you're running on battery. It is quite the show. I should actually show you the show. Let me show you the show. Let me show you the sizzle here. You can know exactly also start it by jumping down to the system menu. And now, isn't this pretty cool? These are all these wonderful different effects out of the Python terminal text effects library. We're simply just playing through all of them. I love looking at this kind of setup. It's just running into terminal and you can stop it at any time on any key, but it is a beautiful addition to the Omarchy setup. But let's keep going through the menu and I will show you everything else that you can set up. As I said, under toggle, you can toggle on and off the top bar. If you're restrained on vertical space, you can turn on and off the idle log, and there's even a night light to get that nice orange glow if you're sitting in front of your computer in the middle of the night. But let's hop in here under style and I will show you themes. Themes are super cool but before I do that, let me actually just open a couple of applications. I'm going to open a browser here and I'm going to open BTOP. And then I'm going to hop back into the style menu under themes and we're going to change themes to something else. Let's actually take something, one of my favorites here, Osaka Jade, and boom, the whole thing simply changes over. Everything is synced together. If I hop in here, I close this out and I hop into a terminal, I'll show you NeoVim is also tied into this setup such that NeoVim is styled with the correct theme that matches that. We're styling the browser. We're doing it live. That actually required a whole micro fork of Chrome to get it done, but we got it done. Everything is tied together such that these themes will just update everything. Now, if I hop back out and I show you the BTOP, you can also jump directly to this menu by pushing Super Control Shift Space, and you will get that. And we can do a light theme, for example, here on Rose Pine. That's kind of neat. You see the backgrounds here, a bunch of different backgrounds. If you hit Control Super Space, you can cycle through them. On most of the themes, we have a handful of backgrounds. Not on all of them. We will soon have that as well. But on some of these themes, look at that Omarchy on the background. Let me hop over on another theme here. We have two of the white ones, or light ones, I should say. Cappuccino Latte. We have some beautiful green ones. Everforest here, for example. Nice moody one. What else do we have? We have a really cool Ristretto brown theme that I really like. Let me actually show you it with the browser here. It's neat to see that just altering at the same time. I'm really proud of it because it required this micro fork and that wasn't easy to do, but we have it set up. Nord is also a nice favorite here. It also has a nice alternate background. So that's the themes, but you can change more than just the themes. If we hop back into the menu, we hop down to style, you can also change the font. I have a few extras installed here, but by default, we also installed the JetBrains monofont, for example. It is quite a popular one, as you see. Subtle, but it changed. Now you're into the menu, and this is running the JetBrains font. I actually prefer the Cascadia Mono that I run for everything, so let's hop back to that. But you can hop back and forth between these fonts super easily. You can also style your own screensaver here. If we hop into this and you want to put in your own ASCII art, if you change this file and you save out, by the way, that is NeoVim, so you're going to use :WQ, that'll save and then quit. You will have the new logo on your own personal screensaver. Isn't that neat? You can actually do the same thing with the About screen. You can change the Omarchy icon here, and if you do, and you hop down to About, you'll see it displayed right here with your own setup. This is one of those things that's really magic about Omarchy. It's really magic about Linux in general, that this is your operating system. All of this is just open source. You can hop in at any time if you want to look around and see how things are done. You can hop to the Omarchy path. You can start your NeoVim editor, and you can simply just start browsing and look at, oh, I wonder how the screen recording is done, for example. All of this is done in Bash, almost all of it, and it is really easy to look. I would not recommend making changes directly in here in the Omarchy setup, because then you're going to deal with potential conflicts when you upgrade, but you can certainly make all the changes inside of the config area. And we have actually hooked that up really neatly. If you hop back into the Omarchy menu and you hop down to setup, I'm just going to show you some of these other things, but if you hop down to config, for example, you'll see all the main configuration files are hooked up for you to jump into. These are the ones that live in your own home directory under .config. So if we wanted to change the idle, for example, like how long should it take before the screensaver starts? We could make that 250 seconds instead of 150. I'm not going to do that, so I'm just going to quit out. But if you do that from this menu, then the changes will be immediately apparent. So let me actually show you that. I'll hop down to config. I'll hop down to the way bar. That's that top bar that you see up there. And let's say I don't really want the clock. I don't want the clock in here, so I'm just going to remove that from the module center here, pull that out, and now as soon as I quit, I can do that on space QQ. Boom, the clock is gone. Let's add it back though. I like the clock, so we hop back into the way bar, and I'm just going to hit U here to restore it, and I'm going to quit out again. Now the clock is back. All of these configuration files right there for you to change. But let's keep going through the setup here because there's some curious stuff. We've been trying to lean into the whole TUI aesthetic. So a lot of these things are TUIs. If you hop in under the audio configuration, for example, and you can use tab to jump between the different segments, you can see here I have a cam link attached, I have my Shure microphone, and I can change these back and forth on which are going to be the default. I can hit D here and the little diamond is going to move. I'm not going to do that because that's going to break everything off. I use my wonderful LXX2 speakers and I have those set as the default. So that's where you do that. And if you just hit Q, you will quit out. We can also set up our Wi-Fi. I have it set up here. You jump between the different sections on tab, and if you want to select a different Wi-Fi network, you hit space. If you want to turn it off and on, you hit space. And if you're on your station, you can hit S to start scanning for something new. You can also hit question mark, and you can see all the different options that there are. And again, if you hit Q, you quit out. Bluetooth, though, is one of those exceptions. There is a Bluetooth TUI. I'm not quite sure whether I love it. So if you hop into this one, you're actually just going to see a regular old GUI interface. I think this might be the first one I've showed you beside the browser. So those still do exist. It is not like we've ripped out literally everything. You can set up your power profiles. This is not really that relevant on a desktop machine. I'm running my beloved framework desktop here, but if you're on a laptop, you can set it to balance mode or power saver as you please. Monitors, that's a really good one to take a look at because by default, Omarchy is set up for Retina class displays. So that means the framework desktop display at 2.8K. That means something like a 5K 27-inch or 6K 32-inch. If you have something else than that, you're probably going to want to change how the monitor setup is because otherwise it's going to be too big. Here's a recommendation for running 4K monitors, or here if you're running a low 1080p or 1440p. You can comment these things out and then comment this in, and you'll see something else and quit out again on space QQ. When you are changing these Hyprland configs, they also update immediately. That's very nice. And some of these other configs that you can change here is the Keybindings, for example. I have all of these set up to the kind of web applications that I use, but if you want to change something else, you just hop in and under Keybindings here. But let's hop out of that. We're not going to change those changes either. Hop back into setup and input. That's a good one as well. If you want to change, for example, toggling between keyboard layouts, I am just on the US keyboard layout. But if I was using the Danish one, I'll comment this out. The repeat delay, the touch pad, if you're using that, the scroll factor, all of these things are just stuff you can change. And I would very much encourage you to check out the Hyprland wiki, see how everything is set up. Let's see, what else do we have on the setup here? Of course, you can also set up a fingerprint scanner or a FIDO key. On the framework desktop, for example, there's a fingerprint scanner, and if you set that up, you can unlock after the lock screen, and you can unlock on sudo. It's really nice to do. As I said, all of these different setups of the default config files are in here. On the Xcompose one, that's a good one as well. When you set up Omarchy for the first time, you'll see that it'll ask you for your name, and it'll ask you for your email address, and it's mainly using those to configure Git so that you can make commits and they show up correctly, but it's also using it to do this. So for example, if I opened a super N here, I'm going to get a new lazy vim, and then I hit N again, and I'm going to be in insert mode, and I hit caps lock space N, and it's going to insert my name. And if I do caps lock space E, it's going to insert my email address to do capital letter W and then get that. Now, of course, you also have all of the emojis. That's actually the main reason this is set up. We can hop into the Learn. We can hop it in under Omarchy here. See that? Scroll down a little bit and see hotkeys. I'm going to scroll all the way back to the bottom here. You have your quick emojis. So I can do caps lock MS, and I'm going to get a smile. Isn't that lovely? Speaking of emojis, you also have Super Control E, and I'll bring up a complete emoji picker here. I'm going to pick a Danish flag. I'm going to insert that. So let me show you something else. Let me show you how to install extra stuff onto your system. You go down to install here, and we could just do a package. I just start typing and you get fuzzy find. You see there's 19,000 packages to choose between. And I find the one I want and I just hit return. And it's going to ask me for my password here on a sudo. And it'll simply just start installing it. It's going to take a little while. Well, not that long. I'm already done. And now if I do super space and I start typing for Visual Studio Code, I can launch that application right away and everything is set up. Isn't that easy? Isn't that just nice compared to going to some website and downloading something? I really like how this setup works. But you don't even have to use the package installer. By the way, here we have the AUR when they're available. You can also install packages from there. Let's see if we're lucky. Oh yeah, 100,000 packages almost on the AUR. That's pretty incredible. So between the AUR and the main Arch repository and Omarchy repositories, you really have a lot of packages to install from. But you can install other things too. For example, you can install all these development environments. Set all of it up such that it is a one-click install. You want Ruby on Rails, you hit this one, boom. Ruby on Rails gets set up with Mies to install Ruby. We use Gem to install Rails. We have under PHP here, we have Laravel, we have Symfony. You hit escape, by the way, to go back one level. Under Elixir, we even have Phoenix. We have all of these main programming environments. All of them are set up on a one click to go here. Let's actually install Go, for example. It's going to pull Go down using Mies. It uses Mies for the majority of this, not for all of it. There's a couple of them that have their own individual installers, but Go isn't one of them. It's just going to download it all down, and then boom, we're done. We have Go available in a terminal here. If I type Go, there we go. Go. Hop back in. Look at the other things we can install under development here. As I said, we have all of these. Oh, JavaScript, of course, not to forget. We have the three major ones, Node and Bun and Dino. You can install any of the runtimes that you prefer. DockerDB is a fun one too. So if you hop into that, you can install some default setups for running these databases locally, having them available for testing right away. Let's do space here on MySQL, and let's also do Redis, and then I hit return. I'm going to install those. They're just going to pull it down. We already have Docker on the system, and actually here I'm cheating because I already had these set up. I should have deleted those images. But let's actually see those set up on Super D. You're going to jump into Lazy Docker, and you can see that even though the images were installed, we have now started the two Docker images that I picked, the one for Redis, the one for MySQL. You can stop it on S. Yes, I want to stop it. You can then delete it on D, including the volumes, and now it's gone from your system. We're going to stop that one as well, and we can delete that one too. Great. I quit out again on that. Super W. And editor. You see how I just installed VS Code? You can actually also install VS Code right here. You don't even have to know the name of the package and fuzzy find that. Actually, let me just show you that. So if I jump back here, I go down to remove, I go down to package. I have all the packages that I've installed, 200 on the system right now. That's a bit more than we installed by default. I've installed a little extra. But if I find Visual Studio Code here and say, I don't want it, I just hit return, I enter my password, and boom, that is now gone. If I go search for it, no, there's no Visual Code. Let me add it back. Install, editor, VS Code, enter my password. And when you install it this way, we have this nice little extra that'll start the editor for you. Isn't that lovely? And again, if you don't want it, you go down to remove, down to package, Visual Studio. You see, it's just a package that did install for you. We can remove that from the system right away, and away it goes. As you can see in here under editor, we actually have quite a few different ones. We have Cursor, that's on the AUR. We have Z, Sublime Text, and Helix. Let's actually try Z here. I've heard a lot of good things about that as well. I am a NeoVim stand. That is the default in Omarchy. But if you installed Z, right here it is. And again, if that is not something that you want, you just remove it. It makes it super easy to try new packages out and be able to cleanly remove them from your system. We have more, though. We also have a bunch of AI tooling. We could install LM Studio, for example. I've tagged the ones that are on the AUR, since the AUR sometimes have a little bit of problems with some DDoSing. But if we install LM Studio here, oh, my fat fingers on the password weren't quite right. It's going to pull it down, and you can see this is actually an app image that's set up and inside of another package, and now I can hit LM Studio. It takes a second to start up, just note that, but not that much of a second, and I am here on a system I actually already had a setup on the system, so it found the config files that I already have. Let's see if it knows about Omarchy. I don't think it will, because, oh, we're just going to use the last year's model. I was testing GPT OSS 20 billion model, or 20 billion parameter model here. Let's see if that works. What is Omarchy? Does it know? It's going to boot it up. It's going to process the prompt, and we hopefully will get an answer. It's a political theory. Oh my gosh, I'd never seen this before. This is actually wonderful. That is kind of fun. Yeah, of course, this is not searching on the internet like AI would do. If we asked a live model here, what is Omarchy? Let's see where ChatGPT has to say. Oh, it is up to date. It is your own Arch-based Linux distribution, core identity, opinionated Linux. Yes, very nice here. Let me tell you what else you can install under AI. You can install Gemini and Claude, for example. Let's do Gemini here. Do I have that on the system already? I might already have it on the system. Or maybe I didn't. And we hop in here and we start Gemini in a browser, and boom, we're ready to go. As you can see here, the whole experience of installing something new on the system is incredibly quick, because everything is just running off these packages. We've tied everything into one unified menu. That menu, by the way, even has gaming. You can game on Linux. You can game with Steam. You can game with RetroArch. You can game with Minecraft by default. And of course, again, you can install any package you want. So if there's something you don't find set up here in the defaults, you just install that. If you go under Style, you can even install new themes. We can hop in here and see, if I start a browser here, all the extra themes. Let's move this window out of the way, by the way. We can do that in two ways. I can hold down Super and then click and just drag, or I can hold down Super and hit W. That'll take it in and out of this floating mode. That's quite nice. Let's scroll down and find one of the extra themes that someone has made. This Mars one looks interesting. Let's have a look at that. And we're going to copy the URL setup here. Going to paste that in. Remember, when you paste into a terminal, that is on Control-Shift-V, not just Control-V, because Linux terminals use that as control key. So if you're coming over from the Mac, that is going to frustrate you for some time. But it's going to clone this down, and voila, right away, everything is simply set up and tied to that theme. And if I remove that, we have a nice picture of Mars. Let's go to Mars. Now, if I didn't want that, I can hop back into the Omarchy menu. I can go down to remove. I can go down to theme, and you see all the extra themes, not the default themes, but the extra themes. If I remove that, boom, it removes, and then just jumps to the next theme. I think this is the matte theme we have. Let's hop back into style, theme, and pick something else. Let's just jump back to Tokyo Night. That's the default. It looks wonderful. What else can you install under style? You can install your own backgrounds. So if I open this, for example, I will see all the default background images. And if I open another file manager here, I can go find my own image, throw that right in there next to the other backgrounds. And once it's in there, I can hit Control Super Space, and I will simply be cycling through all the backgrounds that are in that folder. Under Style 2, you can install different fonts. I have actually hooked up some of the common fonts that require a package to install. The Fire Code font, if we install that, it's going to pull down the package, and it's also then going to set the font. We already had it. Boom, it has set it, and you see it changes it up here in the Waybar, it changes it into Terminal, it changes anytime you use a mono font. But again, as I said, I really like looking at my Cascadia mono font, so we're going to hop back to that. I think that was everything under Style, wasn't it? Yep. One back out. Now, one that's really neat here is that all of these web apps that you have, you can just add your own. We built the entire system in here, and if you start it like this, and we do DHH blog here to add a new one, and we're going to add my personal blog here on Hey World, and then we need an icon. Now, I'm suggesting dashboard icons here. That's perhaps not the one you want to use for my blog. I don't have a dashboard icon here for us to look at, but if you were finding Blogger, for example, let's say I was hosting it on that, you could probably find that. Yep, you could. This is some vintage stuff right here. You go down and copy the PNG URL, and again, you need to use Control-Shift-V to paste it in. Now it has set up the blog, and you can find it on Superspace. So let's try to do that. Superspace, DHH. Voila, there's my blog. And again, this is your own application. You can make that whatever you want. You can put in whatever icon you want. It lives right next to the system web apps that we have set up. Isn't that just lovely? There's no discrimination here. Your web application is going to look as good as any other. Hop back in under this, and you can do the same thing with TUIs. You can set up any TUI that you would like to use here. We could do another one for lazy Docker. Let's just imagine that we didn't have that. Lazy Docker. We can pick whether we want it to float or to tile. So you see this window right here is floating, but if you just want it to tile to the side, you pick that. And again, we're gonna pick a dashboard icon, and I'm gonna make this one tile for a second. We're gonna find one for Docker here. We're gonna pick the Docker one and paste it in. Now I can find LCD that I had set up on my unique Docker icon. And there we go. Now, if you hop into update here, this is where you will be updating Omarchy when there's a new release coming out. When there is a new release coming out, there'll also be a little icon up here next to the clock, and you can just hit that. It'll jump straight into the update process. But let's just run with scissors. Let's just live update Omarchy right here. You can see Omarchy is already up to date. But when we do this, it also wants to update the system packages. This is how you keep Arch up to date. There were actually a couple of new ones. There's even a new kernel. Do I want to reboot right now? Do you know what? I'm going to save that for just 1 second here. So I'm not going to reboot the second, but that's the invitation if you want to do that. Under update, if you've messed with any of the configs and you want to restore them to the default, you can go in here and do that. Finally, you have the system menu. You can hop in here. You can start that beautiful screensaver we already looked at. You can lock your system. You can suspend it, relaunch, Hyprland, restart, or shut down. You also have a quick access to that just on Super Escape. I usually hit Super Escape return, and then I've locked my system. As I said, we also install a bunch of other default packages. You can learn about those if you hop in under the Omarchy menu, in under Learn, in under Omarchy, and you can go down here and check out what is there. We have Obsidian, for example. I use that to keep all my notes. You have Pinta, and if you find an app like, oh, I want to check out what Pinta is, you can just launch it here. Quick drawing app. We have Local Send. That's a replacement for AirDrop. It is really neat. Start local send here, and if I have any devices, I can quickly send to them. I can pick a file, a folder, or text, or paste, or whatever. You can install clients on Android or on iOS. You have LibreOffice for those times when you need to open a Word document or Excel spreadsheet, or you want to just do some spreadsheeting or writing in that style. We have Signal, we have MPV for playing videos. You have Op Studio, that's what I record this on, and Kdenlive, that's what I edit these kind of videos on. And as I said, you also have some commercial GUIs installed by default. You have 1Password, that's what I use for all my passwords. Topora, which is a really neat writing tool that I use for all of my essays. Let me actually just show you that really quick. Topora here. What I really love is you see it like this. It looks nice. Then you hit F11 and now it's just writing bliss. There's literally nothing else on the screen here. Do I hit F11 again? I could jump out of that. So that's the basic of Omarchy. It is a beautifully, fully set up system ready for anyone to do production development work with everything you need, from your editor to your AI to your development environment, with all the configurations set up and done for you, while leaving you free to change whatever you want to change. This is your system. This is not Mac OS. You don't have to beg Apple for something. This is not Windows. You don't have to beg Microsoft for anything. This is Linux. You get to change whatever you want to change. Now, let me show you how to actually install Omarchy. Omarchy now comes on an ISO. I'm going to show you here in a VM how to set that up. You download the ISO from the website, you get it onto a USB key, and you plug it into your computer, make sure that secure boot is turned off, and then you simply boot from it. And it'll automatically hop into the Omarchy installer. That'll first detect your network, and you'll answer a few questions. It'll answer your username here, mine is DHH. It'll ask for a password. If you enter that password wrong, of course, you'll be let know that those don't match and that they have to match. And then you can enter your full name here if you want the GitHub setup. I like to have that set up. And then, of course, you also get those autocomplete keys. I enter my email address and then a host name for the machine. If you want to use that, I can just hit return, and it's going to be called Omarchy. Now you can filter down your time zone and enter your keyboard. And if everything looks correct, you can say, yes, I want to proceed. Now you get to pick where you install this. And it's really important that you pick a drive that is free. Omarchy takes over an entire drive. There's no dual booting on a single drive. You can, of course, dual boot if you have two NVMe slots in your machine, but otherwise, make sure you pick the right one. Make sure you have a backup, because as soon as I hit return here, it's going to overwrite it. It's going to encrypt everything. It asks you one more time to confirm it. And by the time you're done with that, you're going to get the countdown to the big formatting. You can still quit out at this point, but now we're off to the formatting effort. It takes about a minute to format this on my 1 terabyte drive and lock things down with the default disk encryption, which will be unlocked by the password that you entered. We also use that password by default for setting up your user and going to root. So make sure that you pick something you'll remember. And this is the thing about Omarchy 2. Everything is set up to unlock with disk encryption, and you hop straight into the system. And after that is going, we will have the Arch install under the covers, install everything that you need for the latest version of Arch. That means you get the latest version of the Linux kernel by default. This is an online installer, so you do need to be online. And of course, it helps if you are on a fast connection. I have a pretty fast connection here, and I can do a complete installation of Omarchy in about 5 minutes. That includes the 1 minute spent formatting the drive, another minute or so installing all of the Arch defaults, all of the Linux kernel, and all of that stuff, and about 2.5 minutes installing all of the packages that we need for Omarchy. Now you can see Arch is done installing. Omarchy takes over and starts installing its own package list. There's about 100 and some packages and a bunch of dependencies. So depending on your connection, that can take a while as well. But we will simply just power through this. It is all based on top of the Omarchy package repository that we've set up for the default packages that we absolutely need and can't get through the Arch core or extra repositories. It also leans on those as well. It does not depend at runtime on the AUR. So if that's having problems, you won't have an issue installing Omarchy. And there you go. We are all done installing. You get this nice little animation. Remember to remove your USB installer, and it'll reboot right away. It'll reboot straight into the disk encryption here. So you enter your password, and it'll finish booting up. So this is a bit of Omarchy inception. I'm now running Omarchy inside of Omarchy. That is all it takes to install it with the new online ISO installer. So that is Omarchy. I hope you enjoyed checking it out. I hope you give it a go. I hope you experiment with it. I hope you realize that this is going to be an adventure. I hope you realize that this is not just autopilot. This is not a commercial operating system. This is a brand new Linux distribution that's only at this point been around for a few months. It already has thousands of people using it. Tons of excitement for it. I'd love to have you on board. I'd love to have you check it out, regardless of whether you're getting a new machine to install it on and using something old, Linux is super efficient. So you can run it on almost anything and it'll run wonderfully. You don't need the latest and greatest to get it done. But if you do, check out Framework. They have the Framework Laptop 13, that's my personal computer, and they have the Framework Desktop that I love as well. If either of those two things don't work, then Beelink is a great choice too. They make really affordable mini PCs. Come join us. Come have fun in the Omarchy world and join us on the Discord.